Let's open up the Funko Pop vinyl, a deluxe figure of Obi-Wan Kenobi in Delta 7 Jedi Starfighter. Varykino. If it's Star Wars, we collect it. Hello there, thanks for visiting Varykino. I've recently been doing a bit of a sort through of my Funko Pop vinyl deluxe figures. Of course, these big boxes, when I get them home from the store, I kind of put them to one side in a little bit of a storage area until I find some proper display space. And this one's been sitting in my storage area for a little too long, and Obi-Wan Kenobi himself doesn't deserve that. He needs to be on display. So I was sorting through, found him again, and I really want to open him. He's so cool. I love prequel era Star Wars starships like the Delta 7 Jedi Starfighter, and I love Star Wars starships in general. I love those other collectible lines like Micro Galaxy Squadron and Hot Wheels Starship Select. So of course, when vehicles show up in the Funko Pop vinyl range, I love them. They are a little bit more expensive. They do take up a little bit more space, but they're just so fun. I love the vehicles. So definitely time to get them out and on display, and I can't wait. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Coming up really soon, I'll take a closer look. We'll get them out of the box and go over all of the details. But first, let's just take a really quick look at the box. Like most of the Star Wars vehicle Funko Pop vinyl deluxe figures, this one is in a really big box. This one is actually part of a range that Funko calls Hyperspace Heroes. You can see we have a black sticker with a little bit of a hyperspace print and the yellow text Hyperspace Heroes. And that design is sort of echoed across the box design as well. We have black accented with yellow here for the top bar and down the side. We have this gray cutout here with the Star Wars logo, and across that top bar we also have a gray circle for the number there, 641. Down the bottom we've got a really long name for this one, Obi-Wan Kenobi in Delta 7 Jedi Starfighter. For some of the other vehicle ones, the name of the astromech is also included in the name. This one unfortunately is nameless. It doesn't have the name noted for the astromech in this particular Funko. A little bit sad that he doesn't really have a name featured on the packaging. This one is also a special edition. We have a silver and blue sticker here that says special edition Funko. This one is the international special edition sticker. So those in the US may have a different sticker on the front, but this is the international one because I'm in New Zealand. I love this big wide window that of course wraps around on the right hand side, and we have a cutout window here on the left. We also have this really fun image here of Obi-Wan Kenobi in his Jedi Starfighter there. I like that preview image there. We've also got that black and yellow design around the window there. And of course, to let in a good amount of light, we also have a really big window across the top here as well. Again, with that preview image of the Funko inside, we've also got the Pop Vinyl logo here on the top as well. Looking at the back, we don't really have much to go on here. Sometimes when we have vehicles, deluxe ones, we have some of the other figures. Sometimes they are other deluxe ones, sometimes just standard single ones that came out around the same time. This one, despite being part of the Hyperspace Heroes, doesn't have any others pictured on the back here. Just a big block of black. We've got the number, that yellow border design, the big Star Wars logo, and just the same preview image that we have on other sides of the boxes, like this one here. That same image, just a little bit smaller with a hyperspace background there, and we have the name. So the back's actually a little bit plain for once. I usually really enjoy the back printing on the deluxe boxes because we've got so much more space, but this one really not much to go on, just a lot of black, which is a little bit unfortunate. So I think this one's going to look really cool out of the packaging, especially because we can see that we have sort of those clamshell plastic protections around Obi-Wan. So there's a lot of plastic. Of course, we've got the exterior window, all of the internal plastic. It's obscuring some of the details there. We've got a lot of dead space around on this side because of course it's a very pointed ship. We've got a lot of spare space down this side. He's going to take up less space when I get him out of the box, and then I can see the details better. So let's get him open. As always, I'm going to go in from the underside flap here. This is thicker cardboard than the standard single figure Funkos, very sturdy boxes. Okay, let's get the plastic trays out. And I think the insert there is quite fun. It's sort of a black print there with some hyperspace lines around the outside. It does make the interior of the box a little bit dark, having such a black background piece there, but it does fit. This is sort of a ship. A hyperspace background's quite cool for it. So let's open these ones up. always a bit loud. Okay, so now we can finally get him out of the plastic tray. Wow, I can already see so much detail. This is cool. Okay, I love the vehicles. Wow, okay, so this is fun. Let's quickly clear out some of the packaging and let's go over the details. So with all of the plastic out of the way, I can go over all of the details. And I gotta say, as excited as I always am to open up a new Funko Pop vinyl figure, even though this one's been in storage, so he's not exactly new to me, it's always really interesting to see all of the details because we don't have the plastic around them anymore. Unfortunately, every now and again, we do tend to find Funko figures that have a few flaws that were hidden safely behind that plastic. And just in the process of getting this one out, I've already spotted a few flaws with this one, and that's always a bit unfortunate. For us here in New Zealand, for the large figures, especially ones with like vehicles and scenes, there are only a few stores that get in the larger Funko figures and only one per store. So if you have them on your shopping list, you generally never have two beside themselves in stores to sort of choose between. If you spot one, that's the one you got to grab because there are not as many. That's some of the downsides to living in a smaller country. We don't get the same product level as, say, in the States. So when we find ones like this, if you want it, you have to grab it. And unfortunately, in this case, the one that I have has a few paint flaws, and you know, it does sort of put a damper a little bit on your collectibles. I love Obi-Wan, I love Jedi Starfighter, so I am excited to have this in my collection, but it's always a little bit frustrating when companies put out a higher priced item. The deluxe ones do cost a fair bit more for us here in New Zealand compared to single figures, so you do kind of hope that you're getting at least, you know, a well painted quality product, but I can see this one has some paint flaws, and indeed I even spotted a bit of a thumbprint in the paint, and that's something I really don't want to see. But let's go over the details first, and then unfortunately let's go over some of the paint flaws. So of course we have Obi-Wan Kenobi here. This is his Clone Wars appearance. He's got a very distinctive sort of hairstyle and beard in the Clone Wars, and of course we can see this is Clone Wars because he's wearing his clone trooper armor that we see him wear in the Clone Wars. It's got the armor plates on the arms where he's got that shoulder piece there, and we even have the Jedi symbol here on his shoulder piece there as well. I like the way he's sitting. There's kind of a bit of a fill in with black. We don't see his knees or anything like that in there, and there is no sort of controls. He's not holding anything. He's just kind of got his hands there. A little bit simplified, but I would imagine it'd be very hard to construct this and paint all of the details if there was sort of extra details there around his hands. And of course we also have an astromech here, so forgive me, I haven't rewatched specific episodes of the Clone Wars recently, so the name of this one escapes me. It is red and black. This is not the astromech that he has in Attack of the Clones. It is different. And I don't know the name of this one. Normally the astromechs are mentioned on the packaging, but this one is not. So I gotta look him up. I gotta give him name to this very cute little astromech. So normally the astromech heads do not turn, and this one doesn't either. He is fixed in there. The paint on this one's pretty good. We've got just sort of a red dome there with black details. We've got a few other little details. We've got some tiny little blue details here, some little white dots. He looks very cute, just kind of bedded in there. Of course, different, of course, because in episode 2, the astromechs are on the wing here. So in the Clone Wars, they've sort of shifted position here, and he's in the front instead, rather than that sort of shortened sort of dome structure, because they kind of never really fit in the wings properly. So I guess that made it easier to sort of put them here in the center body. We've got a really nice sort of Galactic Republic symbol. It looks like this sort of a digital print or a decal of some sort, black and white, looks pretty nice. And we also have one right here in the back, or we have two. These ones are kind of a little bit more stretched over the curved surface. They've got a little bit more of an oval appearance there, a little bit unusual. I thought they'd be more circular. I couldn't see those ones because of course they're sort of tucked in the back there, a little bit harder to see. But when we look at this one, that looks like a full proper circle. and these ones are kind of a little bit distorted over that slope, which isn't ideal there, but we've got some really cool details. Of course, we can see that we have that sort of black angular base there with those clear sort of acrylic rods. We've got 3, 2 at the back, one towards the nose here, and like most of the Star Wars Funko range, we have this angular plaque here with the Star Wars logo printed in silver. Nice and clean, it's not scratched, nice and straight. I like that. I think it's interesting that the nameplate here is directly in line with the front. A lot of the deluxe Funko figures are more on sort of a 3/4 angle, sort of from the side, so we can see some details, but still see the face and the astromech. This one is dead on straight, which is kind of interesting, a bit different. I don't actually know if I really want to display this one straight on. I don't mind it, but because so many of the other ones are angled, I might put this one on my shelf more at an angle. I don't know. What do you think? I know it kind of has to go in line with the base, and this one is kind of lined up with the shape of the starship. If I sort of turn it over, you can sort of see it fits very nicely on the underside. It almost matches the angles here very, very well. So I understand why it's that way and not sort of tipped to the side, but personally, I think the angle just looks maybe just a little bit cooler from the side there. And while I was turning it up on the underside, you can see we've got another Galactic Republic symbol there. None on that side, but that's kind of fun, you know. We don't always get the full sort of detail and paint job on the underside of Star Wars collectibles, so I like seeing that. There is a fair amount of surface texture here, not as much as, say, Micro Galaxy Squadron, of course, but we've got some really nice sort of line work, some details here, a lot of detail around here in the pointed nose, which I really like. This is really cool. So yeah, I like those silver sort of engines there in the back as well. Very cool. A lot of surface detail. Of course, it's kind of a simple shape. We don't have sort of big extra sort of pieces on the side. It's sort of a simple, you know, it's not like an X-Wing where we've got like the extra sort of X-Wings and the laser cannons and all that kind of stuff. It's a bit more of a simple shape. And I think that's why I'm a little bit let down about the paint job on this one, because it's got nice big flat surfaces. This doesn't look that complicated to paint, you know. I'm not exactly an expert on the paint processes of a Funko factory, but considering some of the paint jobs on some of the more complicated Star Wars vehicles, I'm a little surprised that this one has the number of flaws that it does, especially for a higher priced item in a Funko range. So let's just quickly go over the paint job and I'll point out the flaws that I've noticed so far. We have this nice splash of red that is printed. We've kind of got this beige sort of cream color going through the center, extends out on the wings. And on the top of this one, there's a little bit of a paint flaw. I think it's glue. Not sure if it's a blob of same color paint or some glue. Very faint, but it's just kind of sitting here, just catching the light a little bit. And on the top of this sort of beige part, we've got this red printed area here. And I know I do focus on the tiny little details here, but there's like a little bit of a red stripe going into the line work here. Very, very minimal, but on the whole, this red part is painted reasonably well. A little bit sort of hazy along some of the edges, but I understand this area in particular has a lot of complex sort of shapes. It's not a flat surface. Of course, this printing is going to be easier to do than over these sort of lumpy, bumpy bits and these sort of different angles here. So I'll give them that. Now, this actually looks like it's made out of the red plastic here, just based on sort of some of the painted details. I like the printing here on the underside. It's almost a shame that this is on the underside, because that's actually a really clean paint job there. I like that. And if you can just sort of see the underside of the engines in here as well, there's a lot of different painted sections and stuff like that. In some ways, the underside has actually got a better paint job than the surface, which is a little unfortunate, but I do like that we've actually got a lot of detail here. Some toys completely sort of just ignore the underside, you know, it's plain, it doesn't get paint jobs or anything like that. So I do appreciate we've got some printed sections, we've got that, you know, the logo there, lots of different colors, beige, silver, gray, and then we've got this black striping on the edge there. So really quite fun. Something that I didn't really notice through all those layers of plastic when it's packaged is this interesting sort of almost iridescent red painted section in this cutout here. It's a different red than the red of the plastic, and it's got quite a shimmer to it. A little bit hard to show on camera, but hopefully you can kind of see this sort of shimmery surface texture to it. And we've got the same panel over here. A little bit of a wobble there in the sort of just final edge there along that part, but it does catch the light very nicely, which I thought that was kind of fun. Of course, we've got these black stripes across the edge there. This one's got a few sort of extra details here painted in black, which is different to this side, of course. A little bit of asymmetry. Of course, we've got the logo there, not on this side. We've got these little sort of laser cannon sections there that don't have any sort of extra paint. They look like they are just part of the red plastic used for this design. Towards the back, we've got some yellow sections here, and we've also got that same sort of beige color as we have across the front. We've got this little corner piece that's painted there. And yeah, the yellow continues onto the underside there as well. So unfortunately, this yellow part has some smudges, and when I look closely at it, we have a darker color that has actually caught the imprint of somebody's fingerprint or thumbprint. I can just start to see some of those sort of fingerprint textures there in the print. It's a little bit of a darker color. Not sure if it is the beige or maybe even a little bit of the red, but yes, somebody's had a little bit of paint on their hand when handling this in the factory, and unfortunately it's transferred onto one of the paler colors of this ship. That's always a little bit unfortunate, and there's just kind of just a few little smudges on this area. It's probably one of the areas that they hold a lot while painting this. Just a little bit unfortunate. I do like the back, unfortunately, just apart from that. In terms of the engines, we've got these nice grey sort of insert plastic pieces there. Lots of different colors here. I like the sort of vibrant mix here. We've got red and yellow and cream and silver and stuff like that. So that's pretty good. We've got a little bit of a darker paint line here. Just across there, it kind of looks like a little paintbrush or something like that has caught it. There is a paint floor on Obi-Wan's chest, just off to the left of the black tunic section. The black has smudged off to the left there. And of course, looking at Obi-Wan's face, I haven't really gone over Obi-Wan's face. Now, I generally have a little bit of an issue when the skin color, of course, they paint it over a sort of, it travels beyond the line of the face. That's kind of common for Funkos. We can see the skin color has sort of bled a little bit up above the hairline. We can see it more prominently around the beard and mustache area where that paint color has kind of gone down onto the hair a little bit. Sometimes it's not too bad. Sometimes when I don't look at this one, I almost don't notice it. It's a little bit more prominent on this side. But something that does catch my eye is we've got a fleck of that paint sitting right on his beard. Now, because it appears, looking at the underside, that this head is made out of this color plastic, I could probably scratch at this and possibly remove it. But it's on there pretty sturdily, and I'm not sure that I'm going to want to try and sort of potentially damage the surface to get that spot off. But unfortunately, it's such a pale color on a darker sort of brown section there. It's kind of catching, especially if you display him front. If I was displaying him to the side, I probably wouldn't notice it quite as much, but unfortunately it does catch my attention a little bit. Looking around the back, it looks pretty clean and tidy because of course this is unpainted. This is part of the plastic, so there's not really much in the way of sort of paint to really worry about. But yeah, I know I really sort of nitpick about these small things, but I do really want the best for my Star Wars collectibles. These are things that I want to look at and enjoy for the rest of my life on my display shelf. I don't want to look at it and go, oh, there's a scratch here and a smudge there, you know, especially for the price point of these ones. When it comes to the cheaper single figures, I kind of understand they are made in such big quantities. They must go through the factories very quickly. They're not always going to be perfect, but for the higher price ones, these ones here in New Zealand are they're not quite 3 times a single figure, but they're getting close. And so, you know, considering there's only one single figure, these ones don't really count as figures. They're more like little you know, a little bit of a feature to the vehicle. It just sort of takes it down a little bit of a peg. I'm still excited that I have this one. You know, I want to see prequel characters, prequel sort of era ship designs in my collection. I'm very nostalgic. My collecting journey began in the prequel era, so I'm very nostalgic about prequel ships in particular. And I love the Clone Wars animated series. I love Obi-Wan, so this one was high up on my shopping list, and I do love it. I like the representation in my collection, but just there's those few little paint flaws that just kind of knock down the you know, the scoring, as it were. I love the design of it, but you just want it to sort of be executed to the way that, and I know that some fans, you know, can take it upon themselves. There are some beautiful sort of repainted Star Wars collectibles out there. Sometimes people do the most fantastic sort of detailed paint work on some figures. Not Funko, they look a little bit odd, but, you know, going in and then sort of retouching everything. Because if you've got, you know, the skill and the time, you can make things look a little bit better than the sort of the quick, fast-paced production rush through paint jobs that you sometimes get. But generally for me, I'm a little bit anxious when it comes to sort of retouching my collectibles, so how they come out of the box is generally how they're going to stay. So even though I could probably sort of touch this one up or anything like that, I don't want to. Even though I know I could possibly make it a little bit better, I feel like I shouldn't have to, especially for the price I paid. I do try to get the deluxe ones on sale when I can, and I do keep an eye on my local stores, and sometimes they're just so popular you can't wait until they hit the clearance table. You just have to grab it at full price, and unfortunately this one was one of those occasions. Obi-Wan's just popular. There weren't very many of him in the country, so I had to grab him when he came out. So he's been in his box for a while, and I don't like keeping the deluxe ones in their boxes. They take up so much space, but sometimes those plastic bubbles, those layers of plastic, kind of hide a few sort of things, you know, that you don't necessarily see. So who knows, maybe I'll put him back in his box so I can just kind of forget about these little paint flaws. I don't know. Would these kind of little spots and flecks bother you? Are you just kind of accustomed to those sorts of little quirks, shall we say, of Funko Pop vinyl figures, or would this annoy you? You know, let me know. I don't know if I'm just being really picky about my collectibles, or if this is just pretty much, you know, par for the course for Star Wars collectors. We want our collectibles to look as best as possible. I will say, generally, if there is a paint flaw on the skin tone of the face, that really bothers me. I've had ones where it looked like they were wearing like they had cried with the mascara on, because there was like this black shadow where the black paint of their eyes had kind of smudged around the eye, gave it a really odd appearance. And in that occasion, I did actually go and source a second one because it was just such a eyesore right there on the face. The eyes on this one, his eyebrows, all of the sort of details on the face are really nice. There is no sort of big black smudge or anything like that on the face. So that's always kind of like one of my deal breakers, is if, say, the eyes or the eyebrows, or there's a big scratch or something like that directly on the face. This one doesn't have that, so it's got that going for it. So I'm glad about that. So a few little sort of paint bits and pieces, like you can see there's like a few little flecks here just on the wing. Again, I don't know if I'm just looking up too closely. I just got to sort of put it on a shelf and take a step or two back. I'm sitting here looking at things really close up, you know, getting centimeters close. So I don't know if I'm just sort of giving Funko a hard time because I'm looking at their collectibles up really close in a way that I know this isn't a Hot Toys or anything like that, where you're looking at this most immaculate close painted details. So I know that they're not on the price point or the detail fine point paint work that other collectibles command. But yeah, I still enjoy Funko on the whole. I know that sometimes their quality can be a little bit inconsistent, but I've had the same things with Hasbro, of course. You know, I've had things that have broken on Hasbro toys, or paint flaws that are clearly not supposed to be there. So it's kind of par for the course. Sometimes you get fantastic ones that just make your heart sing, and other times you get ones that you love the design of it, but the execution's just a little bit off. But at the same time, I'm just really happy to have this one in my collection. So you win some, don't want to say you lose some when it comes to this, because I do own it in my collection. But yeah, he's not quite as painted well as I would have personally hoped. But we'll try again another day with another Funko, and I know I'll find other ones that just absolutely sing. I've got a few more to open up soon, so I'm looking forward to those. And hey, Obi-Wan's finally out of his box, and I can put him on display so I can can just admire Obi-Wan in his awesome Jedi Starfighter every time I walk past my Funko display, and that's the whole reason I have him, so I'm looking forward to that. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today as I opened up another Star Wars collectible and had a lot of fun checking out the details. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon or evening wherever you are in the galaxy, and let's hang out again very soon for more Star Wars fun. May the Force be with you. If you're a Funko Pop vinyl fan, I've also unboxed the Ahsoka Tano in Delta 7 Jedi Starfighter Deluxe figure. That video's linked here in case you haven't already seen it, as well as a whole Funko unboxing playlist. This is the way.